AI has been overhyped when it's positioned as a replacement of systems. That's not what we're doing. We're not ripping out your WMS or your execution stack and replacing it with AI. So once you start thinking about that, then you're going to be like, okay, well, this is going to replace everything. No, it's not. What it's doing, it's helping you rather make intelligent decisions and leveraging the visibility that you might have actually achieved through deploying these systems and then giving you that competitive edge to be able to be ahead of your competition and also not only understand the visibility of your supply chain, but also execute and be future proof.
Welcome into another edition of the Cargo Rex series where we were talking about AI use cases in logistics. And today we're talking with Jett Chitanand. He is the president at EPG Americas, and we are going to be talking about their tools around the new era of AI with their Aura program and where intelligent document processing is part of more of a broader level of products that they are solving with AI. And so, Jett, welcome into the show.
Thanks for having me, Blythe. Looking forward to this conversation.
Now, give us sort of a high level view of, we mentioned that the broad spectrum of products that EPG is targeting. So give us that high level view of who EPG is, your ICPs, your target customers. Who are you talking to and why?
So EPG is at our core, we are a supply chain execution platform. So everything from warehouse management software, transportation management software, contract and billing, which is very important in the 3PL world, yard management as well. And so earlier this year, we launched our AI environment, which sits on top of our execution layer, on top of our platform, or any platform for that matter. And what it does is it's focused on solving challenges inside the four walls of distribution centers and warehouses and leveraging AI to be able to make really smart decisions using agentic AI specifically. And that's gotten us a lot of success, especially having also won the best product award at Logimat, which is a large European show that can be compared with Modex or Promat.
And so as you are developing these new products in sort of this new tech renaissance that we kind of find ourselves in working in logistics and supply chain, how are you choosing to develop the different products and how did they sort of come to fruition? Was this something your customers were asking for, or were you seeing it in kind of the data that you wanted to optimize for them? How are you approaching your customers with these different product sets?
So it's all about problem solving, right? That's a great question. It's all about solving. We observe there are certain areas in the warehouse and even beyond, because some of our applications go beyond what happens in four walls. But it's all about, making sure that we understand what the challenges are and can we leverage AI using this? Rather, can we leverage AI to solve these problems? And that's how some of these came into fruition. I'm happy to go into more details regarding use cases, but we saw, just to kind of give you an overview, we saw challenges while receiving product. And that is one area where consistently we got feedback about how cumbersome is the process to unload everything, to get the delivery notes, to get all that information for you to then be able to really start doing your work. And then so on and so on. We gradually started to uncover more and more challenges that we could solve using AI. So we transform actually our company internally as well as developing this application and leveraging AI because if you don't adapt, then you're left behind. So that's the approach that we're taking.
So let's talk about some of those different use cases because we got a couple of your case studies that were sent over, but we're the IDP product. So tell us a little bit about that product, and because I have some data that shows that 13 minutes are saved per delivery across the
Mhm.
goods reception process, and at a 10 dock facility running 70 trucks a day, that adds up to 15 hours saved daily. Walk me through where those 13 minutes actually come from.
Sure, absolutely. So to sort of center this conversation, IDP, which is our intelligent document processing, sits inside a broader array of use cases, which is called as the EPG Aura Observer. So observer, it's like an eye. So you can an eye can read a document, and I can look at a video, and I can look at a podcast, right? And also hear it, of course. So that's the idea behind it. We've also partnered with NVIDIA on some of the camera technology that we're using in other use cases. I should say the intelligent video analysis, which is part of our observer. Here, the challenge was a lot of organizations were using OCR to detect documents, to read those documents. However, when things are inside the warehouse, they're not always perfect. As you know, you get all these delivery notes, they're crumbled up, there's stuff written on it, so on and so forth. So it becomes extremely hard for people to parse out that information, understand what that is, and put that into, enter that information somehow to capture it and enter it into your WMS. So what we did is, using AI, technology, we're able to understand and recognize patterns. So it's very simple. What you do is, with a camera, you take a picture, the AI uses and it contextualizes the picture that you've taken, understands what if there's information missing, if there's information that's blurry, so on and so forth, and really recognizes those patterns and builds up that information so that you get everything as it should be, and then you take that information and upload it directly to your WMS. So all that process happens pretty instantaneously. Where you see people save on time is, you mentioned the goods receipt process. So that can be broken down into five, let's call it, major categories: check-in and unloading. So this is when your trailers come in, you're checking in, you're unloading the trailer, so on and so forth. Then you perform your initial inspection and identification of what product it is. You've got your goods receipt recording. That's when you record all the information that you've received. Then, of course, you have quality control, and then you put away. So in all of these steps, the major three steps, or sub steps, I should say, where we can save time on, are initial inspection and identification, just with that camera capturing all that information instantaneously. Similarly with goods receipt recording as well, and then handling of different loading units and so on and so forth, and then quality control. So we did extensive time studies also at a customer site as well, and then that's how we came up with that 13-minute number. So then you can extrapolate that, and as you mentioned, it's absolutely right. It can potentially save up to almost 2 shifts worth of work.
Now, in a traditional shipment process, there could be all different kinds of modes that are used to complete the journey of getting that source, to port process completed. And
Mhm.
as most of us know in this industry, there are, all of these different information silos, there's acronyms, there's, language barriers. How do you sort of account for all of those different information silos and make sure that once that document is processed, that everybody can kind of understand it from the same lens?
Excellent question. So I'm going to go one step back and talk about how our AI platform or AI environment is developed. So at the core is something that we call as cognitive core. That is sort of the brain, rather the heart of the AI system. There we have our own technology, as we're using multitudes of LLMs to be able to analyze all the information and use and leverage AI. And then we have something called a semantic brain. And what that does is it contextualizes information. So semantic brain is where you can upload all of your documents, your workflows, and so on and so forth. So let's say you're customer XYZ, and you have some very specific processes in your warehouse, whether it's related to shipping, whether it's related to just whatever you're doing inside your facility. And you can actually upload all those into the AI environment. The AI environment uses our LLMs as well as that information to contextualize what it's seeing and looking in real time on that specific document. And that way it's able to understand and recognize this acronym in this context means this activity.
And so as you're well, with that, it almost sounds like maybe like that's a key part of the onboarding process when you bring a new, client on that's going to be utilizing your services. Because if you're doing, if you have a WMS and a TMS, and then you have these different document imaging processes, then I would imagine that could create a situation where maybe you're surfacing things that are a problem, or inefficiencies that were a problem that the customer didn't know about. So how do you approach maybe the pre onboarding or the pre boarding, and then the onboarding during those customer conversations? What do those conversations look like?
So it's always, because applications can be so broad, and this is just one application. The onboarding process can be, depending on what the scope is going to be for the entire project, it can go on, right? So it can be an iterative process. What we've tried to do is make you leveraging AI, and this is what I want, sort of the audience to also get away is. get from this rather is you don't have to have your instructions in a specific format. You don't have to have, you can just say, just like, give you an example, right? I mean, if you go on and any sort of an AI platform, and then you say, I need a ticket, flight ticket to whatever it is. I live in Raleigh, so Raleigh, and then just find me a flight ticket for May 1st, and these are your parameters. Do it. So you don't tell them what to do inside. It's going to then figure it out based on the models, right? We're using a similar approach here, where you have the beginning state, end state. That's how you solve problems. However, to your point, that can and will uncover some inefficiencies in this process. Where again, if you relate it to a traditional AI that you're using every day, it's going to say, okay, fine, I finished this action, but now do you want? I noticed that there's something additional. Do you also want me to look at that and give you a recommendation? So that's sort of the way that it's going to work.
And so it's more of the exception management for a lot of these different roles where they don't know what they don't know, especially during the onboarding process. But there could be some opportunities where, that 13 minutes that we cited earlier could lead into more efficiency saved across an entire, sort of shipment flow. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes, that's right. And again, to sort of reiterate, that's one use case. We have others as well, but that's the one where we can absolutely pinpoint and say this is what we've observed in real time. We've done time studies and saved on cumulative time saved throughout a shift.
And so one of those other use cases that were brought up is IVA on
Mhm.
the operational impact. And so the Aura Observer, which is one of your products, and then the video partnership got a lot of attention, as you mentioned, at Logimat. Without some of those hard numbers, how does IVA, first of all, what does, I guess, sort of IVA stand for? And then what is the big problem that it's solving?
Okay, so IVA stands for Intelligent Video Analytics. So it's as simple as having our AI system be deployed, and you have any cameras you can have. Like we don't necessarily recommend certain type of camera, but it's basically tied into the camera system. Any camera system that you have. This acts like a supply chain manager for the most part, or help that a supply chain manager can really use. Imagine a warehouse, and using cameras, it's constantly detecting and understanding and contextualizing what's happening. So you're not telling it that this is a person, this is a yellow vest, and so on and so forth. It already knows this because of the LLMs that I just talked about, and other proprietary technology. So what it does is, let's say that you have an accident in a specific aisle, or you have a product that is spilled,
Hmm.
or you have obstacles, or if you have pallets sticking out where it shouldn't be, so on and so forth. It's already going to look at that,
Hmm.
and it can give you an alert. It can give you an alert to the supply chain manager and say, this is what's happening here. How do you either want to handle it, or if there's a specific action that you need to trigger, if I observe this, then go ahead and trigger that action by itself. So it can be used for accident detection, safety protocols, whether those are being followed or not. Observing pallets, like if a pallet is standing there for way too long, and it needs to be put onto a trailer, it will give you an alert, and you can set all kinds of alerts using that. Overcrowding in areas, you can generate heat maps. There's pretty much. I don't want to make it sound like a hyperbole, but it's sky's the limit.
And so, as I would imagine that manufacturers, shippers are the target market that EPG has been working with and going after for these different types of use cases. I am curious about the sort of formal onboarding process. Do these additional products work best with your existing customers, or are new customers coming to you and saying, we have this problem, we don't know how to solve it, and we think you might be able to solve it? Tell me a little bit about those different demographics.
Yes, absolutely. So it can be both, and the reason why we have seen so much success early on, and we continue to see a lot of interest and a lot of practical solving practical applications, is because we've kept sort of the end goal in mind is to solve these problems, and we've tried to make it so that it's independent of our own software, which is WMS or TMS, so on and so forth. Of course, we prefer it to be on own platform makes things easier. Especially at Modex, we had a lot of interest there from companies, wanting to learn more and really coming to us with problems and challenges, and some of which we didn't think about, but we could certainly use those and apply our AI environment to solving those use cases. So I would say it's a bit of both, and we've intentionally kept it agnostic so that you can pretty much use it with any existing software, and you're not beholden to using our platform. But certainly, you'll get more benefits from it.
Oh, that's interesting. So it's integrating into what maybe a user is already invested in, and so it's an additional intelligence layer on top of that.
Yep, absolutely.
So you've done the pre-qualification, you figured out, oh, this is going to be, and I'm talking from a customer point of view, this is going to be a good fit for us. What should I do on my end of things to make sure that I'm prepared from a data lens, from a tech lens, to make sure that I'm going to be able to hit the ground running if I choose to engage with you?
Yeah, so we have a very detailed and specific process that we go through and walk through with the customer. What I want folks to understand is, I remember somebody mentioning that adding in a new ERP is like getting a root canal. it's painful, and but you know that you have to get it done, right? That's not the case here. Just like with it may not be as simple as subscribing to ChatGPT and you start using it, but it is closer to that than it is to deploying a new ERP or WMS. So we have a detailed list of documents and checklists through what's required, what's needed, and it's very use case specific. That will walk you through, and it's a detailed and thorough process of us looking at the environment and then assessing where we can add value if we can, and then moving forward with that. So it's a very detailed specification that we walk through with customers and understanding. Because if we don't understand, if we can't see it through their lens, then we can't solve their problem.
As more and more teams are adopting these tools, there is a segment of the population that is incredibly fearful about
Mhm.
it using these tools, and oh, is if I start to use this tool, is it going to replace my workload? Based on your experience and the teams that you've worked with, how are you handling some of the pushback that comes with that fear?
So that is, I would say, that's the boiling the ocean category, right? Like that's not what we're doing. We're not boiling the ocean. We're not trying to figure everything out. And that also comes from some of the hype from AI, right? It's like people saying that AI is going to solve all problems. So the bottom line is AI has been overhyped when it's positioned as a replacement of systems. That's not what we're doing. You still what would need, it's not, we're not ripping out your WMS or your execution stack and replacing it with AI. So once you start thinking about that, then you're going to be like, okay, well, this is going to replace everything. No, it's not. What it's doing, it's helping you rather make intelligent decisions and leveraging the visibility that you might have actually achieved through deploying these systems, which in itself can be a big feat, and then giving you that competitive edge to be able to be ahead of your competition, and also not only understand the visibility of your supply chain, but also execute and be future proof.
And so as you're I guess building these out or building these systems out with different teams, I'm curious as the maybe some of the executives have bought in, but it's down to that sort of in the trenches employee or that department that has to manage the actual change management and the adoption and making sure that people are using these tools. In your experience, is it really sort of one person like the AI ops lead? Or as someone internally that's put in charge of like being the champion of the different adoption tools of AI? Is there more of a success rate that you've seen with different roles or departments or evolutions of how the modern manufacturers are moving into the modern age using AI?
So I wouldn't say that there's necessarily a group of people that we've seen more interest in. It really depends on the company's DNA and whether they're a little more forward looking as opposed to whether they're conservative specifically. And the reason why I say that is because our use cases are so varied. So now I talked about the four walls. Solving problems in the four walls. That's primarily what we focus on, but we also have something called as an orchestrator, which can understand if there's a delivery coming in that's late, then it can manage all the workflows inside the four walls based on the late arrival of that delivery to reprioritize all the work so that you can get the rest of it out as soon as possible and as efficiently as possible. So I would say operations, supply chain, and IT all have to sort of align to be able to make the decision. But I don't necessarily see a specific category or specific sub function within a company that has been more excited or more willing to move forward with it, as opposed to how the company is structured, and whether they're more of a forward looking company or a conservative company.
Yeah, because there's definitely a little, with some conservative companies, there's a
Mhm.
hesitancy almost to adopt these tools, and how they don't want to. What I've done for 10 years has worked for me. I don't want to change, and that kind of mindset, which maybe has to be massaged a little bit. And once they start seeing, sort of the eye opening moments that these tools can provide, then it leads to greater adoption. And I'm curious if you've seen that maybe with your own customer base, how they, maybe they'll get started with document processing, and then now they want to add on another layer. Are you seeing more of an all-in-one approach where someone wants to jump all in and rework everything, or maybe like a phased approach?
Phased approach is what I've seen primarily, and it makes sense. Crawl,
Mhm.
walk, run. That approach makes the most sense, and that's what we've seen more and more. But yes, we've had some conversations with customers where we worked with them for a while, and they know our capabilities, and they have trust in what we bring to the table. Those are proceeding with having, even though it's phased, they want to go sort of, let's call it a big bang approach, more of a big bang approach, and we've seen some success there as well. What I will say is, yes, there's going to be a lot of trepidation. There's going to be a lot of customers, thinking that, what should I like? Should I really do this? The bottom line is, you got to start somewhere.
Mhm.
Start small, because think about it, Blythe. Just like 20, 30 years ago, right? We didn't have 30 years ago. We didn't have cell phones, or we just started getting them. Now we're able to text. Now we're able to have Wi-Fi. Now we're video. Now it's AI. So it's constant change, right? So if you don't change at the appropriate rate, then you're going to be left behind, and your competitors are going to go ahead. Doesn't mean that you have to, go in and flip everything upside down, but you got to start somewhere.
Absolutely. And maybe outside of the use cases we've already mentioned, are there any other maybe moments that you can pitch to a customer that can get them to start, crawling before they walk or before they run?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, the key is to understand how clean is your data, and really understand that, because if you have, naturally, if you have garbage data, garbage is going to be coming out, right? So that is where I would say the customers or prospects or whoever is exploring AI, whether it's our solution or somebody else's, which I don't think specifically, I haven't encountered anyone who's solving problems in this realm the way that we are. But regardless, they should make sure that their data is clean, the data is accurate, and ultimately that is going to then help them to start with a use case, start with saying, which outcome is going to yield me the best possible result inside the facility. What's going to, because ultimately it all boils down to ROI. And if that's the case, then you start there, and if you see it working, then you expand, and so on and so forth. But you gotta start somewhere.
How do you know if your data is dirty or not?
That's a good question. I mean, you will, if you have, it's basically, if you have a WMS system, or a system that's a legacy system that you've been using. A lot of the times, depending on the size of the organization, if it's too small of an organization, then they know, in general, they don't have a good system of managing all of their data. But from a mid-sized organization, it also, through their operations, it becomes somewhat evident that they have disparate systems, disconnected systems.
Hmm.
If they can't talk to one another, if you don't have end-to-end visibility, that is also a sign of you not having the right type of, either data visibility, or data cleanliness, if you want to call it that, to be able to execute something like this.
And so, final couple questions
Yeah.
here. Uh, Anything that you feel is important to mention that we haven't already talked about?
Yeah, no, I mean, as I said, visibility used to be the big thing for supply chains, right? End-to-end visibility. We need to understand where, why, how, so on and so forth. And that's more and more is becoming more and more table stakes to be able to get to the next phase, as opposed to the end goal, which it should be, which it was perceived to be a number of years ago. So what I will say is, again, going back to the message of, you got to start somewhere in terms of innovation, even if it's small, even if it's utilizing a specific use case, so on and so forth. See if it works, but you have to be able to, take that leap and start small, and don't try to, again, as I said, boil the ocean, and measure that result. And if it leads to a positive ROI, then you sort of have the indication of where you need to go.
All right, perfect. Well, Jet, I think that's a great place to end the conversation. Where can I folks, or where can I send folks to connect with you,
Yeah.
connect with EPG?
Sure. Yeah. So, of course, visit our website, www.epg.com, Echo Papa Golf, EPG.com. And you can find me on LinkedIn. It's Jett, Jett, Chitanand. And I checked the other day, and there's only one result that you can find. So that's perks of having an unusual last name, I guess. But that's where you can find me on LinkedIn. So please feel free to connect, and happy to engage in conversations and answer questions, whether it's related to EPG or just around AI, or anything for that matter that pertains to the industry.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, and I will find that singular link for LinkedIn and make sure I put it in the show notes just to make it that much easier for folks. But this was really interesting conversation, so thank you, Jet.
Thanks for having me, Blythe. Thank you.
Absolutely. Not every lead is a good lead. Cargo Rex helps companies get found faster by buyers who are already researching solutions in their category. So instead of shouting out into the void, your business can show up where the actual buying intent exists. Create your free profile and then upgrade when you're ready over at cargorex.io.